All right, let's do this. I'm sure you missed doing notes. All right, happy Tuesday. I hope testing went well. The good thing is that now your day is going to be, your classes are going to be much shorter, so hopefully they go by pretty fast. All right, so we've been working on evolution since we came back. Right, we talked about Darwin's theory, how he went to observe finches and noticed the similarities and differences between the finches and different animals. We talked about natural selection, adaptation, all the changes that have to happen in evolution for animals or organisms to be able to adapt to their environment. And then you worked on cladograms, which are diagrams that just show the relationships between different, right, in quotation marks, animals. So now we're going to be talking about primate evolution, which is an important part of the evolutionary theory, right? You've probably heard about this before, how we're related to chimpanzees, or we're of the family of primates and stuff like that. So hopefully if you have any questions, they get answered within these next couple days. So we are part of the family of primates because we're intelligent and we're social organisms, social creatures that have these complex behaviors that other animals don't have. We know, right, when you think about a chimpanzee, a monkey, you always imagine them to live in a tree, right? In tropical regions, whether it's in South America or wherever it is. But of course, we know that us humans are the exceptions. So, primate. And it's been a while since I wrote on these, so it might be a little messy. So just hang tight. So what's a primate? A primate is defined as a mammal with, and there's different characteristics, okay? So one of those characteristics is relative long fingers. Relative long fingers, right? And we know that it's typically 5, and we know that because these animals are able to then use these long fingers to grip objects. It wouldn't help if their fingers were relatively short, whether it's to grip objects for eating or used for movement. And also toes with nails instead of claws. Oh, baby's waking up. Hopefully he allows me to finish. Okay. And we also have arms that rotate around shoulder joint. And these we know that they are used for swinging in the trees. They have a strong clavicle. Binocular vision. Right, if you've ever used binoculars, that means that our 2 eyes are facing forward and they have some kind of separation in between. Right, we don't have eyes on the sides of our head, so we can't get a full it wouldn't be 360, probably 270 view. We have a more 180, and then a well-developed. Oh, I turned off my pen. Well-developed cerebrum. A cerebrum, brain. So the cerebrum is the thinking part of the brain that we have that a lot of other organisms don't have, right? Because we've talked about this. We were talking about reproduction. When we were talking about reproduction, we talked about how we are the ones that are able to, in this case, not primates, right? But for us humans, we're able to make decisions in a way that other animals are not able to. So let's talk about more of the evolution of primates. So, evolution of primates. Oh. This would be a little subheading. So, evolution of primates. We have a common ancestor. So, humans and other primates. We have a common ancestor that lived about 65 million years ago. Right, and we base this off fossil evidence, among other things, but that's a really long time. If we think about it, that is a reason why we don't look exactly like a chimpanzee or some kind of monkey, because so many years have passed, and we'll talk about the separation of groups right now, but so many years have passed, and it's very hard to tell everything that, all the differences, right, and commonalities in between us, because there's just been a lot of adaptations there. Oh, that was a jumble of words. Anyways, let's move on. So they were split into two groups, right? One of them, and hopefully you learned this from yesterday, were the lemurs and lorises. Okay. And the other ones were the tarsiers and anthropoids. These two groups represent the different primates that there are. The lemurs and the lorises, if you've ever seen Madagascar, they're those little monkeys that come out, I forget their name, but they're the party ones. The gray and black and white ones. They're small and nocturnal, right? They have big bulgy eyes. Nocturnal. They have big bulgy eyes because those allow them to see at night for seeing in the dark. And they mostly, for these, they lived in Africa, Madagascar, and Asia. The tarsiers and anthropoids, on the other hand, right, if we think about the difference between, if you've seen the Madagascar movie, if you think about those monkeys versus, I forgot something, and the long snout, their nose, their mouth. We have a much broader face, right, and it's also to accommodate the bigger brain that we have. And our nostrils are more widely separated. Widely separated nostrils. And because, if you think about back to science in middle school, right? They talked about how all the continents, there's evidence that shows that all the continents work together, right? And formed the Pangea. And then about 45 million years ago, when these continents split, we see all these different animals, right? Like if you think about the ostriches and the emus and the rheas, they're all big birds, right? But they have different physical characteristics. Why? Because they had to adapt, whether they look the same or not at one point. They had to adapt to the new environment, the new temperature that they had in their new location. So these tarsiers and anthropoids then split up into two groups.